Hi, everyone, and welcome back for week 3 of our Autumn Wonders Sew Along, hosted by Pat Sloan at her website, ilovetomakequilts.com. My name's Kendall, and I love having you here on my channel. This week, we want to know about the festive gatherings that you might have throughout the autumn. We don't really have anything in Australia because of the difference in the months, but I guess for your autumn, you might have Halloween or something else. Let us know on Pat's Facebook group, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan, when you share your photo of your block. If you haven't done so already, jump over to Pat's website, download this week's free pattern, come back here, and I'll show you how to do it. So this week, as always, we've got all of our fabric cut out as per the pattern, and we have all of our backgrounds cut as they are, and then we just have two other fabrics. One is for large half square triangles, and the other is for some smaller half square triangles. So to make the half square triangles, we'll take our background squares, one large one and two of the smaller ones, 4-inch ones, not the 3.5 inch, and we'll draw a diagonal line from corner to corner in one direction. We'll then match those background squares up with our print fabrics, right sides together, and we'll take that to the machine and we'll stitch 1/4 inch on each side of our drawn line. Because we are working with a larger square this week, and because my sewing machine is up off the table, I just secure the layers together with a couple of pins so that nothing shifts when I take it over to my machine. Now that we have sewn on each side of our drawn line, I just like to give these a press first to set those stitches and set that seam before cutting them in half along our drawn line. We then need to take these back to our pressing mat and we'll press to the darker of the two fabrics. I actually sewed one of my background squares on the incorrect way, so you'll see me quickly just unpick those and sew it back together in the correct orientation before moving ahead. So slice them in half and press towards the darker of the two fabrics. If you've been a long-term subscriber, you know that I generally trim my half square triangles 2 at a time using a standard quilting ruler. Because in this instance we are trimming these half square triangles down to a 6.5 inch size, and that is normally the square that I use, and I decided this time to just do each of the larger ones individually and trim those down. So to trim those down, it is still the same method. We place the diagonal line from the ruler on our stitching line. We make sure that we have enough fabric outside our required trim down measurement of 6.5 inches on all 4 sides before trimming the first 2 sides. We then rotate the block. We line up our diagonal once again on that seam line. We can this time line up our 6.5 inch measurement on the freshly 2 cut sides before trimming the final 2 sides. With the smaller ones, the process will be the same, except I will do those 2 at a time. And before making the first lot of cuts, we need to make sure that that seam in the middle is very snugly nested. Now that all of our half square triangles have been trimmed to perfection, we just need to take the 4 smaller ones and we need to make 2 units before we can progress to final block construction. We need to make 2 4-patch units, incorporating 2 of our half square triangles and 2 of our background squares. You'll see me here fiddling around because my background fabric is directional, but it's not that noticeable, and I was trying to get everything going the right way, but once I realized it was futile, I just put them as I needed them to be. To make these 4-patch units, we'll start by doing our 2 vertical seams and then our horizontal seams. After we do the first 2 horizontal seams, we'll press to the background square, and then when we do the horizontal seam, we'll just pick a direction and go. With those 2 units now made, it's time to lay out the final block. And as you can see in the top left hand corner, we just put those 2 units that we just made in the upper right and the lower left, and our other 2 half square triangles fit in with the darker of the 2 fabrics pointing towards each other. This will also be put together with 4-patch construction, which means that we'll start by doing our 2 vertical seams and then our horizontal seam. As you would have seen throughout that process, I simply pressed towards the 4-patch squares in those instances, and throughout this process here, I'm just instigating my little clip the seams and move things in the direction that I want them to go to lay as flat as possible. So there's no hard and fast rule with this, you just do whatever feels right for you. So it looks like I've clipped out on the edges here to turn the half square triangles towards the solid fabric, and then I clip either side of the smaller half square triangle and flip the way that that seam's going as well, and it just allows everything to sit nice and flat, and it's easier to manage moving forward. Well, that's it for another week, folks. And as always, I really love if you could like, share, subscribe. And if you subscribe, well, if you don't, I don't know why. But when you do subscribe, not if, make sure you click that little bell and you'll be notified of all my upcoming videos. I generally am only on a Wednesday, but sometimes I have another free pattern for you, or I may even conduct my own sew-alongs as I recently did with bunnies and blooms. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.